Last season ended with Squad X arriving at the seaside, where they could see from a distance a nuclear submarine exploding and sinking. They struggled to accept the possibility that Murphy and 10K could have perished inside.
Is this submerging?
However, at that moment, a boat was seen escaping into the distance. Roberta, using binoculars, spotted Murphy at first glance. She hadn't expected him to escape, but upon closer inspection, Roberta noticed 10K was not on board, leading to the grim possibility that he went down with the submarine into the ocean depths. Squad X found this hard to swallow. 10K was such a good kid. Suddenly 2 airplanes whizzed by in the sky. They didn't look like they belonged to the United States. Shortly after, a group of soldiers in military attire surrounded them. Without uttering a word, these soldiers proceeded to give them a thorough beating. Ten minutes later, their hands were tied behind their backs, and they were forced to kneel on the ground as an officer emerged from the forest. All of them had Asian faces, and what's even more outrageous is that they spoke fluent Chinese.
Roberta Warren, watcher.
Look who's world famous.
You in charge? Murphina, China.
Doc couldn't help but lament that it was because of Murphy again. Even without Murphy present, trouble seemed to follow. Sun Mei didn't pay them any heed and instead went to the shore to peer out at the sea with her binoculars. They saw Murphy piloting a boat, moving away from the area.
I don't think she understands you.
Betray!
You better take me out quick.
Sun Mei then took out something resembling a tablet and started looking at it, though it was unclear what she was doing. Taking advantage of the situation, Addie quietly attempted to free herself from the ropes. Roberta noticed this and pretended to engage in conversation with Sun Mei to draw attention. When the moment was right, Roberta acted swiftly, snatching a weapon from a soldier behind her. But when she turned to her companions, it was really a bit embarrassing. Roberta had to silently return the pistol and kneel down honestly. Sorry for interrupting. At that moment, 3 zombies approached from behind them, prompting the soldiers to organize a counterattack.
You and me gonna have some words.
After dealing with the zombies, Sun Mei picked up the tablet again and scanned Roberta, immediately bringing up her personal information. Once her identity was confirmed, a soldier pricked Roberta's neck, drawing her blood. Doc, Addie, and Hector also enjoyed this procedure. Afterwards, Sun Mei inquired in English where Squad X thought Murphy might go. Roberta and Addie looked at each other and didn't say anything. This was their bargaining chip to survive. Suddenly the soldier's walkie-talkie went off. It turned out the planes overhead were Chinese, and they were preparing to drop supplies to assist the squad in locating Murphy. Without further ado, Sun Mei ordered her subordinates to take Squad X to the drop zone immediately.
Have you seen a kid with black spiky hair and brooding good looks? He was on that submarine with Murphy.
On the other side, Murphy was speeding across the sea in a cruiser. Initially, he did not want to let Squad X down and was willing to cooperate in developing a vaccine to save the world. But after the contact, Murphy realized that he was just a blood bag. So he bit Dr. Murch and the captain and controlled them to destroy the submarine. He no longer wanted to live for others but to create his own kingdom instead. 10 minutes later, the boat docked, and Murphy ordered his subordinates to quickly gather their belongings and leave the area, as the submarine's explosion would surely attract nearby survivors. Dr. Murch was a crucial part of Murphy's plan, as he needed her to help develop a serum to control others.
Clock hates us, people! Let's move!
After giving the order, a figure surprisingly sat up inside the boat. It was 10K. Murphy had brought 10K along, though 10K had passed out due to blood loss earlier and was unaware of the events inside the submarine. 10K picked up his backpack, not wanting to stay with Murphy. Reuniting with Roberta and the others was his priority. However, Murphy didn't say much and simply took the driver's seat.
I'm not going anywhere with you, Murphy.
Strangely, despite 10K having just expressed his intention, he ended up getting into the vehicle anyway. With a slight dark circle under his eye, the vehicle headed north without a specific destination in mind, with Murphy just eager to leave the area quickly. But they hadn't gone far when bangs were heard from the front. The tires had burst. The subordinates all got out to check and found they had run over something sharp. Suddenly, 10K, with his sniper rifle, spotted a zombie emerging from a mountaintop on the side. He effortlessly took it down. Before he could lower his rifle, several zombies appeared in front of him. Strangely, these zombies seemed to know how to use weapons. Murphy extended his hands, and a powerful intent seeped out. But the zombies didn't stop and charged straight at them. It didn't take long for him to understand that these weren't zombies but rather hungry humans who had slowly degenerated into something like wild people. The captain was immediately killed with a machete blow to the head, and 2 soldiers were quickly overpowered. 10K took action and resolved the situation in less than 30 seconds. What comforted Murphy was that the 2 soldiers weren't dead and could continue to serve as his bodyguards. Suddenly, they saw a plane flying very close overhead. Meanwhile, the soldiers were leading Squad X toward the drop zone. Looking up, they saw the plane just as it dropped supplies, including 4 packages and an armored vehicle. Suddenly, cheers were heard from afar. Sun Mei realized this was bad. Nearby survivors had seen the drop and couldn't be allowed to reach it first. Sun Mei's guess was correct. Others had indeed noticed. In this world starved of resources, who wouldn't be tempted? Possessing these supplies could mean survival for a very long time. Not just these 4, but also bandits who hid by the roadside to rob passersby had seen the drop and signaled their companions to prepare for looting. The wild people were not to be outdone. The soldiers hastened their pace, relying on their superior firepower to crush any zombies they encountered. To Squad X, this method of killing seemed mindless and wasteful of bullets, completely lacking in finesse. If these fools were killed by zombies, they would be in trouble too, especially since their hands were still tied. Just after voicing their complaints, 6 or 7 zombies emerged.
What are they waiting for? Wait.
LT. Mong pulled out a circular device and threw it at the zombie's feet. Seconds later, it emitted a green laser. Had weapons advanced to the stage? Suddenly, a zombie rushed out from the side, heading straight for Sun Mei. Hector chose to intervene, and Roberta promptly stepped on the zombie before crushing its head with her foot. Because of Hector and Roberta's actions, Sun Mei lowered her guards somewhat and untied them. She explained their origins. Her name was Dr. Sun Mei, a Laotian virus expert who studied in Beijing. The situation in Asia was grim, with very few survivors left. Many elite scientists and leaders had retreated to China. Though they had ample supplies, they were unable to develop a vaccine. So, they were here looking for Murphy's antibodies and platelets. After introducing herself, Sun Mei decided to return their weapons. She had her subordinates fix Addie's baseball bat and even added an electric shock feature to it. Hector's pistol was also slightly modified. Afterward, Sun Mei requested Roberta's help in finding Murphy. She needed to take Murphy's blood back to the laboratory on the aircraft carrier. They had prepared all their fuel for this trip to North America, and many had sacrificed along the way. Therefore, this mission could not afford to fail. Roberta did not refuse, but she wanted an answer.
It's for everybody, right?
Of course.
Minutes later, they halted because the satellite showed the drop was right here, yet there was nothing on the ground. At that moment, Addie pointed out that the supply drop seemed to have been shot down above the factory, causing it to deviate from its original trajectory, meaning the supplies were inside the factory. Before they could approach, they saw 2 groups of survivors rushing in.
Wow, those Z's are fast.
They sure don't look like Z's.
Of course, these weren't the only ones. Gradually, survivors from around the houses charged in, followed by gunshots and the sound of fighting from inside. They witnessed all this from a distance, but now was not the time to back down. They had to get those supplies. Then, fully armed, they entered through the main entrance. Inside was quiet. The sound of fighting had vanished, leaving only a few zombies that sporadically charged out, most likely survivors who had died and mutated. Sun Mei checked the satellite map, which showed the drop was about 800 meters away. They had to proceed with caution. However, as they walked, they saw no living people, only bodies, one after the other, indicative of the fierce battle that had occurred. 3 minutes later, they passed through an alley, and the satellite showed the drop was just behind it. Suddenly, Roberta sensed something was off. Several figures appeared in the darkness ahead. Thinking they were just zombies, LT Mong threw a high-tech sphere to wipe them out in one go. Squad X reacted quickly, pulling Sun Mei behind cover, but the soldiers in front were too slow to react and were instantly locked on by a green laser. By the time they wanted to run, it was too late. Sun Mei was heartbroken. She had promised the families of these soldiers that she would bring everyone back safely, but now this had happened. Soon, they discovered LT Mong was still alive. With no way back, Roberta immediately called her teammates to fight. The wild people, relying entirely on instinct without any skill, were like paper in front of Squad X, likely ending the fight in less than 2 minutes. Sun Mei checked LT Mong's injuries. Fortunately, a spike had only pierced his shoulder. The loss of so many companions deeply saddened Sun Mei. Feeling she had let down their families, Roberta could only comfort Sun Mei to persevere, emphasizing that completing the mission and developing a vaccine would honor their sacrifice. LT Mong, leading the way, though not showing it, felt as if a heavy stone pressed against his chest, making it hard to breathe. With Addie's concern, he managed to force a smile, but at that moment, a zombie lunged at him from around the corner. LT Mong had no time to react. It was a painful way to die. LT Mong lay convulsing, gasping for air. Addie, wielding a mace, rushed forward but didn't expect the zombie to block with its hand. Clearly, the zombie had evolved some intelligence. Just as Addie was about to be overwhelmed, Hector came from behind and eliminated the zombie. Meanwhile, the deceased LT Mong mutated and stood up.
Give me mercy.
Now, only Dr. Sun Mei remained of the squad. Feeling an overwhelming sense of despair, Roberta could only forcibly take Sun Mei away. They moved on to another factory and finally saw the fallen supply drop. But damn it, only the parachute was on the roof. The armored vehicle had vanished without a trace, and the supply boxes were already empty. It seemed someone had gotten there first. A few bodies lay on the ground, most likely dead from fighting over the loot. The tire tracks left by the armored vehicle seemed to mock them. Sometimes life is like this weather. The roof leaks right through an endless night. Sun Mei knelt on the ground, feeling she had messed up everything and let everyone down. Roberta approached and asked if it wasn't possible for their aircraft carrier to make another drop. Sun Mei shook her head, indicating that they had almost exhausted their resources and the radio was broken, making it impossible to contact their base. Therefore, Sun Mei was in complete despair, feeling she had failed everyone's expectations and no longer had the face to live. Roberta was silent for a moment, then slowly helped Sun Mei to her feet. At this point, Squad X also lacked a clear objective and didn't know what to do next. So, Roberta made a decision.
We're gonna find Murphy. And when we do, you're gonna use his blood to make a vaccine and save this sorry-ass world. Not Garnett, and not the CDC. We survived for some cosmic reason, and I'm naming it. I have faith that you, and you.
Roberta, true to her leadership, inspired everyone with a few words, reigniting hope for the future. Roberta had just finished scolding Murphy when she heard the sound of a car honking, and it was Murphy who came, and it turned out that the airdrop supplies had fallen into his hands.
Roberta Warren.
Murphy?
The Murphy?
Murphy!
Where is 10K?
Seeing Murphy shake his head, they thought 10K was dead. Roberta quickly asked what had happened inside the submarine. Murphy made his stance clear, advising Roberta to wake up. The world was beyond saving. It would be better to join him in creating a hybrid nation together. Roberta, of course, refused outright. Instead, she invited Murphy to continue the mission to develop a vaccine and save the world, with a ready-made scientist right in front of them.
Mr. Murphy, my people are waiting for us aboard a ship with a fully equipped lab.
Well, that explains the broken radio. Only plays Chinese. Well, thanks for letting me borrow your ride, by the way.
That's my medical equipment.
Yeah. Borrowing that, too.
You can save my people, save everyone. I need to make this vaccine. Help me.
Sorry. No one is poking holes in me ever again. Unless I say so.
Unable to persuade him, Roberta drew her gun, ready to use force. Murphy sighed, saying if that's how it had to be, he wouldn't hold back. Doc's first thought was of 10K, but before he could see anyone, several wild people appeared in the distance. Murphy drove off, leaving behind a message: the era of hybrids had come, and humans were undoubtedly doomed. Squad X didn't chase after Murphy but quickly took out weapons from their backpacks to deal with the approaching wild people. A mysterious sniper killed several wild people approaching from behind. This person was 10K. He watched Squad X leave, his eyes filled with gentleness. 10 minutes later, Murphy circled back to the building. 10K walked down from the tower, ready to get into the car, but it was unclear why he hadn't chosen to reunite with Roberta and the others. But if you looked closely, you could see a fresh bite mark on his back. Squad X evaded the wild people's pursuit and walked across a grassland. Doc speculated that the shooter must have been 10K. Who else would have such good marksmanship? As they spoke, a car appeared in front of them, hoping it had keys inside. Before getting into the car, Roberta reaffirmed their mission: to stop Murphy from establishing his damned hybrid kingdom and then to develop a vaccine to save the world.
On to the new mission.